Hi, I'm Roy Huntington, and we're actually in my garage where I do a lot of my gun work and sharpen knives and things like that. If you hear chickens in the background, it's because the garage doors are open and they're running around outside. I get a lot of reader mail about a lot of things, and a lot of people ask me, how do you sharpen a knife? What do I have to buy? Do I have to buy those fancy sharpening kits? Should I just find somebody in town who does it? And, well, what I'd like to do today is show you just a few very simple tips, and let's demystify this a little bit. It's actually very easy. And whether you need to sharpen a tomahawk like this or maybe a folding sort of tactical knife, I like this one because I don't lose it and I can find it. Old rusty butcher knife, I use this for cutting up cardboard boxes in the garage, or maybe a more classic sort of fixed blade hunting knife. They're all the same and it's all very easy to do. Let me show you. Well, to get started, let me introduce you to the most powerful tool I know for knife sharpening. I know traditional stones are pretty classic and a lot of old guys swear by them, and I used to use traditional sharpening stones too, but they do wear out and they do tend to lose their flat surface. This is a flat diamond impregnated stone. This is the Duo Sharp series by DMT. I've actually had these for several years and I use them pretty much constantly. The beauty of this is it's a big flat level surface, so you can get repeatable angles, and we'll talk more about angles in a minute. The only other thing you really need is a rag to wipe your knife off and a little bit of water, and you actually don't really need the water, but I like it because it kind of washes away it's called swarf, which is the microscopic particles of metal that you grind off of the knife. Something else that's useful is a black Sharpie pen. Use that to blacken the knife edge, and when you take a swipe you can look and actually see where you're cutting, and that helps you maintain the angle. I'll actually show you how to do that. All right, a couple of things that you need to know. The key to putting a keen edge on a knife is to maintain the same angle as you drive it across the stone, like that. What you want to do is move the knife as if you're cutting thin slices of roast beef, just like that. But the critical thing here is maintain the same angle. Now, roughly 20 or 25 degrees, it's not that critical. A lot of people will put 2/4 here and then lean the back of the blade on them and then maintain that angle as they make the sharpening movement. I've done this a lot, and so I kind of have enough muscle memory that I can maintain pretty much the same angle. The reason that's important is that if you make a cut like this, and then the next time you make a cut like that, we'll see you've just ground two different bevels. You need a very consistent bevel as you push this across. Now, this is a 325 grit stone. The higher the number, like a 600 grit, the smoother it is. And so this is about what I use to put an edge on a knife that is still moderately sharp. If you've got a knife that's really been destroyed, you may have to start with a 220 grit stone to establish that initial bevel. So now let's put a little water on here. I'll mark this blade with a Sharpie, and then we'll see how we make the cut. Okay, let's put a little water on the stone, and remember, it's not critical, but it will help to sort of flush away the microscopic metal particles. Now what we're going to do here is we're actually going to darken the edge of the knife. You can see that shows up really well. And then now, what we're going to do is establish that 20-25 degree bevel angle, and then I'm going to just press kind of moderately hard, and then I'm going to make a swipe, and then we're going to look at it. And if you can tell, see, I still have black visible there, so I need to increase my angle a little bit so when I take the stroke, it wipes all of the black off. So now let's try again. I'll increase the angle just a little bit. We'll make another stroke, and now I'm almost there. Here I got all the way to the edge, there I didn't, a little bit there. Let's try one more time. As you make the swipe, you actually have to lift the handle a bit at the end because the angle of the bevel as it makes the turn there. So it starts at one angle, and then as you finish, you kind of lift the handle a little bit. So let me show it from this side. So we'll slide along like we're cutting roast beef, and then lift the knife a little bit to finish the edge. I'll do it one more time. There we go. Now let's look at the angles here. And actually, maybe you can see that I actually got the bevel correct all the way down to the edge. Now that I've got kind of my muscle memory going, what I'm going to do now is alternate Strokes, a couple of strokes one side, a couple of strokes on the other side. The reason why that's important is you want the bevel of the blade to be consistent. You don't want one to be like this or one to be shorter. You want to take the same amount of metal off of both sides. That way the edge is very consistent. So now I'll show you this. It's as simple as this. It's not a lot of pressure, and you can kind of hear the diamond cut. Two or three, four strokes like this. And like I said before, my knife was moderately sharp already, so let's wipe it off. And then there's several ways you can feel the edge. The classic way is you just go like this, and if it feels catchy, then that means that it's probably developing a good edge. And you just run your thumb gently along it, and you'll see if it's smooth in places, you'll know that you need to sharpen more. Another easy way to do it is you rest it on your thumbnail, and if it wants to stay as you move it, that means it's actually catching and digging in a little bit. You see that? If the knife's not sharp and you do that, it'll slip off. You see that? It just slips off. If the knife has a sharp edge on it, it's going to want to stay, just like that. Another really cool thing to do is to use a magnifying glass. If you use a magnifying glass, you can actually get in and look at the edge. You can actually tell where you've sharpened and where you haven't sharpened. And you can see where I've got the edge established all the way down in one spot, but there's still a little black showing right at the very edge where the sharp edge is. Although it doesn't really prove anything, it is fun to see if your sharpening did a good job. And in this case, we actually established a really good edge. Now, if you wanted to, you could go to a finer stone like this 600 and polish the edge even more. But I found for an edge that has just a little grit to it, seems to cut more aggressively. Well, you can see it's actually really easy to sharpen a knife. The secret is just make sure you maintain that consistent bevel. Use a Sharpie marking pen so you can actually see where you're cutting. Use a lubricant like water if you've got a diamond stone. If you're using a traditional stone, make sure the stone is flat and level. Use a lubricant, some light cutting oil or even water, and try not to dig into the stone with the point of your knife because it'll ruin it. That's the beauty of the diamond stones. They really hold up better. So just take your time, don't be in a hurry, and if you run into trouble, maybe come back and watch the video again. Well, I'm Roy Huntington, and thanks a lot for tuning in.